Hello everyone, welcome to another video for Gearotic. This one is on Celtic Knots. Celtic Knots, well, not a gear obviously, is something I wanted to throw in the program because I had been meaning to write a utility to make them for quite some time, and I had an opportunity this summer to do so, so I thought I'd throw it into the program. It's useful to those with lasers who would like to do 3D engraving from a grayscale image. This module is actually designed to do that, but you can save the images as STLs as well. And in the fall you'll be given an engraving module which will allow you to engrave them with typical CNC machine tools. So let's take a look at what we can do with Celtic Knots. So what we have on the screen here is a typical square Celtic knot. Celtic knots are a type of plating. Plating is a technique where a thread will be wound around like a snake eating its tail. No matter what you do, the Celtic knot will always be a continuous line weaving in under and over previous strands. You can see the one on the screen here is made up of 4 individual strands. We have a square one and 2 longitudinal ones at diagonals. And if we tilt it, you can see that the threads actually go over and under the next threads. Also on the screen you'll see a bunch of red and yellow dots. These are your blocking grids. As I say, Celtic knots follow a rule almost like the old game of life, in which you give it an environmental change and it will respond to that change. All of these red dots are clickable, and if we click on one you can see several others light up white. This is to tell you they are appropriate to draw a blocking line to. So let's draw a blocking line across between these 3 points. And if I release, you can see what happened here is we drew a straight line across called a blocker. And now the thread has automatically repositioned itself to tie itself to follow the rules. You can drag these lines and create various patterns, but there are rules to them. For example, we cannot click on a line and cross a previous block. If you do, the program will ignore you. And you won't be able to block on that point. Just so we can get a better look, let's take a look at one of the options here, which is the snake scale. Snake scale at the moment is at 50%, and if I lower it down, you can see it makes the snakes themselves shorter. You can see that we're actually going quite a ways up in the air over the top of the previous thread, and we have a Z scale button which controls that, so you can lower these down, and if you like you can actually take them down so that the lines cross each other. It's still typically obvious to the viewer that these are threads that go under and over. How much accent you give that is up to you with the Z scale. We also have a scale, an X scale, which is used for perspective calculation. At the moment you can see it's at 100%, and this means that our grid is perfectly square, but if I drag it out to say 150%, you can see we're getting longer. Conversely, if I drag it down to 30% of the Y, you can see that we're now tall and slim. In addition to that, we can change from a round tube to a ribbon. This is just a flat ribbon, or a flat ribbon with some recessed lines in it. We could have other selections, but I basically roughed in the simple ones that we'll want. You can make this any size. You have a grid selection over here on the side where you can change the X and Y amount of lines in the grid. And once you're finished drawing a pattern that you like, you can either add it to the project, in which case you can save it as an STL. Again, you can't machine it as yet, but eventually you will be able to. You can also hit this button called Laser Grayscale. And you'll see when I do that, the screen flashes black for a second, and it saves a bitmap into the project folder, which is a grayscale image of just the Celt pattern itself. The dots and the head are all removed and so on. And this grayscale pattern can be used for the power on a CO2 laser in order to raster scan this pattern into wood or whatever material you're going to raster it into. So those are the only 2 uses at the moment, is a laser grayscale and an add to project. I might add that a lot of problems with the video features have been fixed in G2 as of this release. So if you had troubles making videos or saving bitmaps before, you may find that you can now do that. In addition to all this, we have planar modifications where we can move our grid into a dish shape or into a spherical shape, depending on what a person wants, or go back to none and we'll be flat on the flat plane. When you're on none, the flat plane makes sure 0 is the bottom of the Celtic knot itself. Now, in addition to all this, we can select a circular type, and here you can see a circular knot. Here, your XY grid, the X is actually going in a circle, and your Y is the radius, the amount outward. So, if, for example, I move my X up to 14 cells, you can see it got a bit bigger, and if I move my Y to 9 cells, you can see it goes out further. Also, the way you control a round Celtic knot is a little different. If we click on a line, you can see, perhaps I'll bring that in a bit so you can see it better. If I click on a point, you can see what you end up with is a straight line, because any of these points would be valid, and a circular ring as well. And the program doesn't do a good job at the moment of showing you a circular ring. It'll allow you to drag to a point, and when you do that, you can see what we ended up with was a circular ring, because of course the Y dimension is now circular. So whenever you click on a point, you'll generally be given your options as to where you can drag it to. This may be a bit buggy as yet. This is a pretty new feature, and it was written for me more so than as a releasing product. But I think a few people might have fun with it, so I decided to throw it in the mix. That's about all that we really need to say about Celtic Knots. You have a reset blocks button if you want to take it back to normal, and I hope that you find it useful at some point.